It's Confident Computing number 856, the easy to avoid two-factor authentication loss risk. Hi there everyone, Leo Notenboom here with this week's video summary of my weekly emailed newsletter, Confident Computing. If you're not getting it in your email inbox every week, go visit askleo.com/newsletter and sign up today. So as you probably know by now, I'm a huge fan of two-factor authentication. I'm not alone. There are a lot, if not most, security professionals will recommend the same. I balance it by saying you should use two-factor authentication for any account you consider even a little bit important. The problem, of course, is that many people have an underestimated sense of just how important some of their accounts might be, but nonetheless, use two-factor authentication if at all possible and use it on those important accounts. The pushback I get whenever I recommend two-factor authentication, of course, is, what if I lose my second factor? What if I lose my phone or my smartphone app or the little dongle that I use or the little key that I use? Well, as it turns out, that's incredibly easy to deal with. Much easier, I think, than a lot of people understand. Unfortunately, it's dealt with easily by preparing for it. In other words, you do a couple of things when you set up two-factor authentication before you lose your second factor, and when you lose your second factor, you'll be able to get back into your account. That's all covered in this week's featured article, The Easy to Avoid Two-Factor Loss Risk. Also this week, so you're poking around on your machine, you're looking at the various files that are there, you're wondering where all your disk space is going, and there's a file or a set of files, and they're big, they're taking up space. You don't know what they are. Is it safe to delete them? Well, that's what Is It Safe to Delete This File will walk you through. It's not always answerable, but there are ways to deal with it anyway. Yes, Windows 10 and privacy rarely go in the same sentence, at least not in any positive way. That being said, there are some choices that you can make, especially when you're setting up your machine for the first time. If you're well past that point, it turns out you can make those choices again. Setting up Windows 10 for privacy shows you how. Much like two-factor authentication, I'm constantly harping on backing up. It's something that is so incredibly important and can save you from so many different ways that things can go wrong. One of the questions, of course, is, well, what's the best way to back up? Where should I back up to? External hard drives for backups, 8 reasons they are your best option, goes into exactly why an external hard drive is, by far, the best thing to start backing up to first. Our last article this week, why is my fan running at high speed? We've all run into this. All of a sudden, your fan on your computer or your laptop is just going to beat the band. There's no explanation for it. Well, there are a number of things to look at. When the fan is running at high speed, your computer is trying to tell you something. It might be okay, but it might not, and understanding why is important. On this week's TEH podcast, Gary and I talk about phishing. One of the comments that I ran across in an article sometime in the last couple of weeks pointed out, for all these massive data breaches and exploits that we keep hearing about in the news, very often, in fact, most often, it all starts with one person opening an email and acting on it in a way that they shouldn't have. Phishing is our topic because it is one of the ways that malware authors, spammers, and scammers can bypass almost all of the security that you might put in place. Finally, this week, I've got a question for you. So I've been trying to offer various ways of interacting with you and have you interact perhaps with each other, some kind of an online community where we can all share our experiences, our questions, our answers, and so forth in a safe Ask Leo environment. The experiments that I've run so far have actually been pretty poor. They've not had a lot of uptake. It dawned on me about a week ago that I should just ask, what do you want to do? Where do you want to do it? And do you even want to do it? So in this week's newsletter, there is a link to a survey. It's got 3 questions. They're real simple. I'd really appreciate it if you could go visit that survey and answer those questions for me. They'll be very helpful, and hopefully next week I'll share some of the results. I'll be able to share exactly what, if anything, I plan to do about it. As always, I hope you find something interesting, helpful, or humorous in the newsletter this week. Until next week, I'm Leo Notenboom. This is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.